Welcome, Saucy Boys and Girls, to the first episode of Saucy Bois, an interview/podcast show where we talk about whatever topics we find interesting. I'm Mayo, and on this episode, Barbecue Sauce and I are going to be talking about adopting an avatar versus creating an avatar. Now, Barbecue, we've talked about this before, but you really haven't had a lot of time to prepare for this, right?
Not really, no. This is like on the spot right now.
This is the raw sauce.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean when I say adopting an avatar versus creating an avatar?
Well, I think it's when you're like imposing yourself into like a character in like a video game versus like you controlling someone that's already been pre-made, like, you know, with their own like backstory and stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like that classic Geralt versus, you know, a GTA multiplayer character.
Yeah. Just
right off the bat, which one do you prefer when you play video games? What do you look for?
Well, I usually prefer playing as like an established character, like say like Batman or like Spider-Man or even like Geralt. I don't know. I just kind of like see throwing myself into like a world easier when there's already somebody like established in it, you know?
Sure. Do you? Because I'm the opposite way. For some reason, I find it a little harder to connect with the story when a character does something that I know they would do, but I wouldn't. Do you find that there's times like that when you play, or does it usually not bother you because you know what that's what the character would do?
Well, yeah, it doesn't bother me because I'm more just invested into the story and seeing what their choices would be and seeing how they would handle it. It's like I see it as like a movie, you know, and I'm first and foremost like a movie fan. So when I play video games, I kind of treat it like a video game, at like not like that, but like I treat it like a movie first and then like a video game second, because I want to be like entertained and I just want to watch the character, you know, go through this like adventure, and I just want to be, I guess, a part of the adventure, and being able to interact with that adventure is nice for me. Okay,
that actually makes sense because I feel like you and I play video games for a fundamentally different reason. I mean, it's to have fun, right? But for me, video games are almost like a type of wish fulfillment or power fantasy. So, I mean, as you know, I like to play a lot of Elder Scrolls games, a lot of Fallout games, and almost always when I play those games, I try to make my guy look pretty much just like me because, in a way, I like to imagine myself in those situations as opposed to, you know, someone else. Which is why I suppose I like making my own characters as opposed to having a character thrown at me. Do you ever play games that, you know, let you create your own character?
Sometimes. I don't really remember the last time I made like a guy and then just like played through the game. Most of the games that I own are pretty narratively structured, like Uncharted and the Batman games.
Right.
But, yeah, I don't really remember the last time I played a game. I think the last one I bought was Fallout 4, and I got pretty far into it, but I kind of lost interest, and then another game came out, and I just started playing that.
Why do you feel like you lost interest in Fallout 4?
I don't know, because it just wasn't just... It really just wasn't interesting to me. I just got kind of bored, because... I mean, like, I thought the characters and stuff were fun to interact with and stuff, but, you know, yeah, I just wasn't really feeling it, I guess.
Right. One of the more interesting examples I can think of most recently was actually Red Dead Redemption, where, you know, you have Arthur Morgan in the single player, but you and I recently played the multiplayer, which is, you know, a really weird blend of you make your own character, but there's still kind of a predetermined story for him or her.
Yeah.
Did you... how should I say this? Do you feel like having made your own character, did that like detract from it, or was it fine?
It was fine because it was just like an online thing. It didn't really have any any consequences or anything to like what was happening in like the single player, you know?
Right.
It was just like its own thing. So I was okay with that. I thought it was fun. It was kind of pretty lame that we couldn't get anything done in that game because we just kept getting poached by other players.
Yeah, I agree. But see, what's weird is when I play Red Dead Redemption, the story, and I'm probably going to get, you know, crucified for this, I have a really hard time caring about anything that's happening because I don't really feel a strong connection to Arthur Morgan. To me, he's not very likable. He's kind of a dumbass, and he kind of follows that same pattern that I see a lot of Rockstar games following of just, grumpy main protagonist does something stupid and then is grumpy about it and then has to deal with the consequences when the character could have easily avoided a lot of the stupid shit. Whereas when we played online, as frustrating as it was that we couldn't create our own lobby and just kept getting murdered because we're bad, as we are, I actually, for some reason, just throwing us into the game world and just saying you guys are poor and you're starving, that to me was almost more compelling because I cared about my ugly ass little Abraham Lincoln dude that I made. And immediately I was almost more engaged with the game. Remember, immediately I set off and started hunting rabbits, and I felt almost a true sense of accomplishment when you actually hunted the bear, and we had the bear pelt and we had our own little caravan. We were trying to walk, to the nearest town to sell the pelt, as opposed to that one moment in the single player where you're leaving to go find, I guess, minor spoiler alert, you're leaving to go find, what's his name? John Marston in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I found the bear, and you were sitting there watching me, and I found the bear, and I'm like, I'm going to go kill him. And the game was like, no, that's not what Arthur Morgan would have done, and it failed me for it. So I guess it's moments like that that really kind of make me prefer making my own character in games that kind of give me free reign for a reason like that. But I think, both are really valid. Mm-hmm. When you are given, the opportunity to make your own character, do you tend to try to make yourself, or do you try to make characters that like Spider-Man or something?
Well, usually, like in the Dark Souls games, I would try to just kind of make myself, but also kind of make a blend of something like not myself, but a higher fantasy version of myself. I guess a better version.
Yeah, like in the Matrix, your digital persona or whatever.
Yeah, like something cool.
Yeah.
I always try to make something cool in the game because I don't know, it's more fun just to look at something cool and something that looks dope.
I mean, I can relate. Whenever I make my guys, I don't put in my crooked ass nose. I always make my guy look like a lot more handsome than me. Yeah. But do you ever find yourself making established characters, or is it almost always your own?
I usually just make my own character. I usually create some something that doesn't exist. I usually just create a unaware character.
Okay, sure. See. And because you said that, I want to talk to you specifically about Dungeons and Dragons, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's a game where you almost never have a chance to play a character, unless you have pre-made characters that the system gives you. Mm-hmm. But even then, most people tend to make their own characters. In that scenario, from what I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, mm-hmm. you tended to make characters that already existed, right?
Yeah.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
Why was that different?
I don't know. It's just, it was more fun trying to be someone that's already been established and seeing what they would be in your campaign scenarios. Okay. It's always fun for me to see what they would do.
Sure. Okay.
And whenever I try to do something of my own accord, my own backstory and all that stuff, mm-hmm. I find it hard to just be as creative than just having someone that's already been created and then just putting them in a scenario.
Okay, sure. Do you feel like Dungeons and Dragons kind of allows for so much more freedom than, let's say, just as an example, let's say Spider-Man, right? Just because I keep bringing him up. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it's more liberating and more fun to make Spider-Man in a D&D campaign because you can do whatever versus, let's say, in a Dark Souls game? Because that's so much more limiting, right?
Yeah, I think so. In Dark Souls, you can kind of just get very specific set of I don't know armor and stuff to mm-hmm. kind of make him look like him, but it's not gonna be Spider-Man.
Right.
It's not gonna have the thwips and all that stuff. But yeah. In Dungeons and Dragons, you can basically just create him. Yeah. And have Spider-Man in your game.
Yeah. By that same token, do you feel like because of that freedom, is that maybe why you have a kind of a harder time making your own characters because it's just so intimidating, maybe, or not really?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I would say that it's a little bit more intimidating. It's kind of like when you're given so much free range about what to do, you're just what do I do? That's not I don't know, established already. What if I want to make my own character, but then it's kind of like just ripping off another character, you know?
Yeah. The old adage of everything's already been made.
Yeah, and it's just like it's really hard to like make something cool when it's already been done, you know?
Yeah. I mean, for that, I would just say, you know, while it is really hard to be creative, at the same time, I think the combination of, even if you make a slightly rip-off character, the way you play them, or the way they are, you know, presented, or the way they act, I think the combination of those two things kind of makes unique characters. Because, I mean, you look at most of the Marvel or DC characters, and even most of the characters in video games, they're like, you know, the generic Wonder Bread white male protagonists with shaved heads. If you're not just looking at a still image of them, they are still kind of their own unique characters in the sense that they usually value different things, or they behave slightly differently, you know, say different quips in the case of Marvel.
Yeah.
But no, I totally know what you mean, especially when they're like, oh, in Dungeons & Dragons, you can literally create your guy from like a molecular level. Every detail is yours to create, and you're like, oh god, what? You know, what? Does my guy have, you know, arm hair? I don't know. What color is it? So I totally get that. For me personally, I tend to kind of work from, not from the ground up, but like from the top down. I usually start with like a stereotype of like, I'm the, you know, paladin who likes healing and all that stuff. And then I usually try to find a quirk to like change it. So I almost always start with an established character or an established stereotype and just try to put a twist on it. Because I personally feel that starting from the ground up and making something unique is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
So like, I totally get that. So by kind of the same, you know, kind of in the same vein of what we're talking about here with the, you know, giving you a character with a story or making your own, do you prefer to play, you kind of already answered this, but do you prefer to play games that give you a story or that let you create your own? Kind of like the Uncharted versus Skyrim thing.
Yeah, I usually like the ones that give you the story, you know, a narrative that you can just follow and then just, you know, have fun and you know, go through the twists and turns as opposed to creating your own. Because I feel like creating your own is just a little bit harder and it's never as, I guess, satisfying, I guess, for me. I don't know.
Okay. I bring it up because, as you know, our friend Buffalo Sauce, he loves games that almost procedurally generate a story, right? He sets up a base and then something really weird or quirky. Yeah, you know, RimWorld, Factorio, all those games. I feel like those are his favorite. Same with XCOM, right?
Yeah.
I almost wonder, is that kind of like the middle ground there of completely make your own story and then the game tells you the story? That's kind of like the middle ground, right?
I think so, yeah, because it doesn't give you a narrative. It doesn't like give you like cutscenes and stuff like that, but it also lets you like control. It also like makes you be able to create your own stories because like it's gonna be like a unique scenario for that player versus, you know, your own.
Right.
When you play the game, because he's playing through XCOM 2 with us as his as his like little NPC characters, you know.
Right.
And you know, we're not gonna do that in our games if we play that game. We would probably just like create. Well, I would just like probably create like Marvel heroes and stuff like that.
Right.
And then, you know, oh no, fucking Spider-Man died.
What's weird to me though is because, okay, so on the far left we have games that let you complete freedom, let you make your own stories, kind of like Skyrim or MMOs even to an extent.
Yeah.
On the far right, we have like strict, like these are the story beats, this is how they're going to happen. And then I guess in the middle we have Buffalo Sauce's favorite types of games. Logically speaking, we should both kind of like those, right? The ones in the middle. But I fucking hate them. Why? Right?
It just comes down to personal tastes, you know? It's just it's such a strange thing because, you know, it should be what you're into, you know, but
at least a little.
Yeah,
like, you would think. Well,
is it because it's like a turn-based game? Do you think, or is it just because like you're just like watching from above, and you're just watching these little guys run around, and you're not really doing much. You're not even like controlling them specifically. You know, you're just kind of like pointing them, go do this, and then they go do it themselves.
I think that's it. I think it's that. I really dislike the disconnected layer of lack of control.
Like you're basically just God watching, you know, little people do
and
stuff.
I guess I personally find it frustrating when, and I shouldn't because that's kind of the point of the game, but when in games like Skyrim, when you mess up or if you mess up your story, it's because you did it, and you're like, okay, that's justified. Or if it's in a game like Uncharted and something bad happens, you're like, okay, that was supposed to happen, not my fault. But in management games and, games like Factorio and RimWorld, when bad things happen, I'm like, oh my god, I feel like it's my fault, but also that stupid AI, or like this bad luck. And I just hate that lack of control, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I think you just answered your own question then.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, that's what it is. Which, again, is bringing it back to D&D. I feel like D&D strikes that perfect balance of just, I did everything I could, but I still rolled a nat one, a fatty natty one. Like, what else can you do, right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. That's why D&D is the best game.
Probably agree with you there. And kind of the last thing I really wanted to talk about was when it comes to, telling the stories and creating the characters, do you feel like you can tell a really focused, powerful story while at the same time keeping the character entirely nebulous? Like complete character creation.
I think that's really, really hard to do because... if you're gonna make your own character and then like have a story-driven kind of a adventure, it's gonna be really hard for the player to like control that character and not just be like, why would my character do this? Like, why would he choose to do this?
Right.
But because I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Like, for example, like you could run into like a quest giver in like the first mission of the game as your character, and the quest giver's like, you must go save the princess, and then like your guy can just be like, I don't want to do that,
Sure, yeah.
I don't want to fucking do that. I'm my own guy. I want to go fucking rob the townsfolk, or I want to go, steal some sheep. I don't know.
How do you feel then about games like Mass Effect? Do you? I guess first off, where do you feel like they lay? Do you feel like they're more on the left side of like complete freedom, or more on the right side with like more structure?
I think they're on the right side because they have like a structure, but they're also kind of. It also comes down to like the dialogue options and stuff like that.
Right.
Because you can go talk to anybody in that universe, and you can just be like, "Tell me more about the Reapers," or you could never ask anyone anything,
Sure.
And you can just figure it out on your own by just like the story and the environments and just going through like different missions.
Yeah.
From what I remember, though, you would have to go talk to specific characters in order to progress the story. So it's never like that absolute freedom.
Right.
But it's still a little bit more freedom than most games,
Yeah. I mean, the reason I brought Mass Effect up wasn't necessarily about the freedom, but more about like they let you make your Shepard, right?
Yeah.
Aside from picking the race, which you can't really do, like you can't be a Turian, which I thought kind of sucked and would have been cool, but also probably way too much like on the story side. All of a sudden people would have to be like, oh, you're a Turian, I hate you, versus, oh, you're a human, I like you. That would have been probably a lot of work for the developers, but to bring back to the point of can you make a focused story with a nebulous character, I feel like Mass Effect almost pulled it off to the extent of, yes, you have freedom, but no matter what you do, the story still kind of... spoilers, by the way. Shepard beats the Reapers. Like, no shit. But no matter what you do, right? Like, you still end up beating the Reapers one way or another. But you did it through your way, which is why I love those series of games. Stupid two-ending thing aside, at the end of the game, when I beat Mass Effect, I got the blue ending or the green ending, right?
The green ending,
yeah, I got the green ending. I wasn't even that mad about the green ending because I felt like my Shepard earned it, right? It wasn't. I never felt forced into it. I saved Rex, I saved the Krogans, I got the Quarians and the Geth like to be chill with each other. And to me, that was kind of the true ending of the game, is not so much what color ending you got, but the little cinematic after it. And yeah, that's, the first episode of this. We are hopefully going to do another episode soon, once we figure out a topic. Well, join us next time on Saucy Boys when we discuss some sort of other topic. We might be joined by buffalo sauce, maybe king sauce, or if this episode doesn't come out long enough, I might be at school, and who knows what other sauces might join the soup. See you guys.